Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name once again, Kerry Stevenson, and today I'm bringing you an IPO. Yes, an IPO, but this one is a little bit different, and you'll find out why when I get chatting with our next guest. He is the co-founder and chairman of Far East Gold. His name is Paul Walker. Paul, good to see you. Thanks for joining me on Small Caps today.
Hi, Kerry. Thanks very much for having me.
Now, I know that there's a lot going on here, but first of all, it's an IPO. When's the IPO closing? It's, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can download the prospectus at fareast.gold. And that's not .gold.com, fareast.gold, which is a really cool website.
Thanks for that. Yeah, we like it. So the offer closes on the 4th of February, and we plan at this stage to be trading on the ASX on the 14th on Valentine's Day.
Love it. Tell us about who are Far East Gold and the projects that you've got, because I know when we were just talking off camera, it's pretty exciting, especially those projects up in Indonesia and some of the things that are coming, some of the news. Just you wait, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty exciting.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, so Far East Gold, we've been around for a few years now. We started trying to find opportunities in Indonesia because of the experience of the founders and the team. And we have 3 projects in Indonesia, 3 gold copper projects in Indonesia, and we have 3 gold copper projects in Australia, which we think strategically balances out our portfolio in a really nice, interesting way to address some of the issues that some investors may have about an exploration company focusing primarily onto Indonesia. So our team, between us, we've lived and worked in Southeast Asia and Indonesia for decades, and we have experience in the Australian mining sector as well. So we bring together some expertise and some fantastic projects, which we think make us something quite unique from an exploration perspective.
So when you say it makes us unique, what do you mean by that?
Well,
there's other companies have had Australia, Indonesia projects. So, I mean, what's the uniqueness?
Okay, so we've got 6 projects. They are at various stages of advancement. Some of them are very advanced, but across the portfolio, we've had over $40 million spent on exploration to date, primarily in the Indonesian projects. So we are sitting here with 3 projects in Indonesia, 2 of which have the potential to be tier 1 globally significant assets. And the third in Indonesia is sitting with a JORC resource of about 1 million ounces of gold and 190 million pounds of copper. And coupled with that, with 3 exciting projects, 2 in the Drummond Basin and 1 in Queensland, Queensland, that from a junior exploration company's perspective is very unusual.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. And can I just ask you again, you said a JORC of 1 million ounces of gold
and 190 million pounds of copper.
So how far advanced is that? Is that your Wanagiri?
The Wanagiri project. So Wanagiri, it's previously had a scoping study done by the vendors, which is Alpha HPA. We're buying that off them and Rajawali Limited. That was back in 2016. So there's been about 21,000 meters of drilling done on that project. So it's very advanced. There's been metallurgical studies done on it. We're in the process of taking the current exploration permit on that project and upgrading it to an operation and production permit. So we're doing the environmental permitting, doing the social studying, social mapping, and the community engagements to over the next sort of 12 months or so. That's our plan, is to upgrade the current exploration permit to operation production, because we know what gold's there. There's a lot of drilling and a lot of metallurgy done. But we're in the process of the transition from exploration to being a near-term production asset. So that's.
Let me just interrupt you there, sorry, Paul, because it is so advanced. Where is it? Is it got easy access, and also how deep and what sort of grades are we looking at?
Okay, so it's situated in Central Java. It's about 5 hours from Jakarta, not far, about an hour from the city of Solo. It's about 12 kilometres by road to grid power, so it's really well located in terms of access to infrastructure and resources. Mm-hmm. In terms of the depth, it's a sub-outcropping porphyry, so that's actually what makes it a relatively low capex potential development proposition. The drilling has gone down to about 460 metres, and it's open at depth. So the strike, the last 37 meters of the deepest hole, was returning grades of about 1.7 grams per ton over 37 meters, and it was still open at the end of the drill hole.
Okay.
So it's a relatively small, modest mine in terms of the size of it and what what the modelling has been done to date. It's sort of showing a pretty relatively small life of mine, about 10, 11 years, fairly modest. But what's exciting about it is there's some epithermal prospects nearby that could feed into the operations within the tenement, and there's also the prospect of it being open at depth and the mineralisation continuing much further and potentially allowing for a underground expansion in the future.
How did you get your hands on it, Paul?
So we have been looking for a project for some time, and this project had been sitting there doing very little because Alpha HPA had 45% of it, and Rajawali Corporation had 55% of it.
Okay. And
Rajawali, they have a very large production mine in Indonesia called Tokotindung, which has production of about 250,000 ounces a year of gold. And they just listed on the IDX last year under Archie is their IDX company, and they were market cap about $1.5 billion for that particular project. This was a bit small for Rajawali. They had 55% of it. They weren't really focusing on it. So we saw this as an opportunity to come along and say, guys, if you don't want it, can we take it?
We have it.
And it was coming to the end of its exploration permit. And we applied for the permit to be put in suspension, whilst we then did all the necessary steps to get the environmental permit to upgrade it to a production permit. The current vendors weren't really going to do that. And so we saw it as an opportunity to say, hey, if you give us the project, we'll take care of all the costs and we'll give you shares upon our listing. And so we're giving the vendors $7.5 million worth of shares in our company upon IPO, and we get 100% interest in the project.
What percentage of the company will they own then with that $7.5 million?
So at a 12 million raise, that works out to be about 16% across the two vendors.
Okay, all right. So they're not going to have anything involved operationally or management-wise. It's purely they're going to be shareholders in your project. Is that a good thing in Indonesia? Because, Paul, I've got to ask you, a lot of people here in Australia, a lot of my listeners will turn around and say, Indonesia as a jurisdiction worries me a little bit. Can you, I guess, alleviate some of that concern by helping them understand why Far East Gold is best placed amongst others and why Indonesia is okay to operate in? So
a couple of things. What's important for us is that we have, at an asset level, complete control of that project. So the Indonesian partners that we have coming in are coming in at a group level at the Australian listed co level. At an asset level, we have complete control of this project, which we've had since we signed the share purchase agreement some 18 months ago. So we've been running the project for 18 months. Having Rajawali Corporation, who they're a conglomerate, multi-billion-dollar corporation, having them on as one of our shareholders is actually really important for us. Yeah. So we are not only giving Rajawali shares as part of the vending for the asset in our Woyla project, the vendor there is also getting $3 million in shares. And she is, again, another well-regarded, very powerful Indonesian businesswoman who, again, gives us support and credibility and helps us in the relationships that we need to develop in operating a business in Indonesia. Now, in terms of why we think we can survive where other people may have struggled, as a team, we have decades of experience in Indonesia. The company Far East Gold was co-founded by myself, my CEO, Shane Manair, our local country manager, Indonesian fellow by the name of Jim Galton, and Justin Werner, who's the managing director of Nickel Mines. Now, Nickel Mines, for anyone who doesn't know, is listed on the ASX. It has a market cap circa $4 billion today. And they are a nickel mine and nickel production company based out of Indonesia. All of their operations are in Sulawesi. Justin has been able to take his company from listing in 2018, raise over $1 billion in debt and equity funding for his operations in Indonesia, and now turned his company into a multi-billion-dollar market cap company, which returns dividends to its shareholders.
Did you say the word dividends? Oh, yes. That's music to my audience's ears.
So we've got a track record of being able to deal with the challenges and issues associated with working in a developing and emerging economy like Indonesia.
Okay.
And it takes time. Some of the challenges that companies face when they go into a place like Indonesia is they sign up an agreement one day with a vendor, and they expect the next day to turn up with drill rigs and start drilling or start operating. We have a team of nearly 50 people in country, and we have for the last 18 months been working up relationships with communities, local governments, provincial governments, central government, the mining department. We have geo team, community social responsibility team. We have quite a big network of people trying to make sure that when we start our advanced exploration activities in earnest on our projects in Indonesia, that the path will be smooth for us.
Okay, I want to go through this because you said you're hoping to list on the offer closed on the 4th. You'll list sort of mid-February, depending on ASX, and then you'll get on the ground. But it's very important for our listeners to understand that there are 3 projects in Indonesia. Wonogiri has got the 1 million ounce gold and the copper, but you've got a couple of tier 1 projects up there as well. Why do you look at those as tier 1s? They're called Woyla. I've got to get this right, ladies and gentlemen. Woyla and Trenggalek. So Woyla and Trenggalek, why are they tier 1s? Talk to me about this.
Okay, so we think we have the potential, from a point of difference, we think we're potentially holding 2 tier 1 globally significant projects, which for a company our size is quite remarkable. If we look at Trenggalek, we start with that one. That's had about 18,000 metres of drilling done so far on it. Anglo was in there doing the drilling. The reason why they were in there is because it has similar characteristics, magnetic signature. It's on a volcanic plug, similar size to another project on the Sunda Magmatic Arc nearby called Tujuh Bukit. Now, Tujuh Bukit, that's owned by Merdeka. Tujuh Bukit has over 30 million ounces of gold resource and about 20 million tonnes of copper.
Tons.
Sorry, 20 billion pounds. Sorry, I got that one, 20 billion pounds.
Okay.
20 billion pounds.
I've got it. It's kind of big.
Yes. So Tujuh Bukit, it started out as an epithermal when they were first doing their operations, and now they've gone and done the exploration to the porphyries. Now, Trenggalek, we have an epithermal seam which has been heavily drilled, and we have an operation and production permit that will enable us to develop a mine there. But there are a number of porphyry prospects that haven't yet been drilled, which Anglo American were in trying to get access to. Now, they were prevented by forestry designation, and we've resolved that forestry issue. So we have a project which is sitting on the same Sunda Magmatic Arc showing similar magnetic.
Sorry, Paul. Sorry to interrupt again. If Anglo American had a forestry issue and that's why they couldn't go ahead, how did you guys manage to solve that little quite big issue?
Well, we solved it in both Woyla and it's been solved in Trenggalek as well. So the way in which we've done it is, as I said, we have a very experienced, good team who have taken the time to make the right applications and the right representations about what we intend to do and how we have to do it. And we also, within the team, we have a track record of success. So if you, again, using nickel mines as an example, they have a great track record of successfully undertaking their operations and getting awards for the rehabilitation that they're doing for their operations. So we're seeing in a very favourable light for the way in which we're approaching this from an environmentally sustainable perspective.
So do you think it's really important that Justin is on the board and is seen as being part of Far East Gold because he has had that success with nickel mines? Do you think that's a game changer for Far East Gold as far as Indonesia is concerned?
It is very important to us as a team that we have a team that understands how to deal with it. So yes, Justin's presence is important. But combined with the other members of the team and our local management, we have decades of experience in Indonesia.
Okay. All right. So one last question. with those two tier one assets, how did you get your hands on those? Who was owning them before? And are you 100% owners of those ones, or is there some?
Yeah, so all of the projects we have the opportunity to go to 100% with, and some of them are at the election of the vendors if they wish to take a net smelter royalty at some point in the future when we go to operate. Trenggalek, we were negotiating for several years to try and get that project with the vendor, and it was just a slow, long negotiation to make them happy that we were who we say we were, and that we were comfortable with the due diligence associated with trying to acquire this particular asset off the vendor. With Woyla, we've known the vendor, or Justin's known the vendor for 15 years. The vendors had this project for a very long time. It was originally, Barrick had it originally, then Newcrest.
Oh, wow.
Then Owen Hegarty had a...
we love Owen.
Had a go at it. And we saw an opportunity in Woyla because there'd been we saw that there was a change in attitude with respect to the treatment of forestry designation. Okay. And the forestry had been basically the thing that stopped it going ahead. We decided to take a chance on acquiring it and made the application to downgrade about 7,700 hectares of forest area to enable exploration and production to occur for the first time in Woyla. And we were successful in August in getting that. And then this week we've had the Governor of Aceh's recommendation for us to be able to start the drilling program there. So we are well progressed in getting all of the permits that we need in our hand to be the first people to ever drill Woyla. Notwithstanding Barrick tried, Newcrest tried, Owen Hegarty had a go at it as well.
When you say it's a tier one jurisdiction, what are you seeing at the moment? What's coming back to you in terms of what's there? Yes, and I know that you can't tell me too much because it's
when we were doing the analysis of the previous work that had been done. So there's radiometric work, aeromag work, there's geophysics work's been done. So there's a lot of early stage exploration work that we were able to access from the previous major players who'd looked at this site. We've gone and taken our geo team and reprocessed this work. And originally they were seeing about 5 kilometre strike length of exposed epithermal low sulfidation veins. We've gone back and reprocessed, remapped and taken further rock samples, and we can confirm 10.4 kilometres of strike length.
So double plus.
Double it up. And one of the other things that we were excited about was Barrick and Newcrest sampling, trench sampling, was showing about 28 grams per tonne as the peak assay results. We sent our geo team up in September, and they took some rock samples, and the peak assay we got from one of the prospects was 53 grams per tonne for gold. And we were, you can imagine how excited we were about that. So we sent our team back in December, and they took a further 57 rock samples across the 4 main prospects. And the samples averaged at 11 grams per tonne for gold and about 96 grams per tonne for silver. And the peak assay result was 119 grams per tonne for gold in one of the prospects. And the peak silver was just under 1,200 grams per tonne for silver. Now there's a few things we were really excited about with this. Like one is obviously the grades. 23 of the 57 samples were above 5 grams a tonne.
Wow.
So it's pretty exciting stuff for us. But also, we were able to take them from old workings from artisanal miners and some current workings from artisanal miners. So they were actually taken at some decent depths, 60, 70 metre depths, and which suggests that we're not being exposed to a supergene enriched shallow high grade gold system. So it's really exciting for us that the results we're seeing from rock samples is supporting our model of a high grade bonanza style Gosawong-esque deposit in Woyla.
Now listen, Paul, we're running out of time and we haven't even gone on to Queensland. So listen, 3 projects in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen, 2 of them potentially tier one. He's pretty excited, as you can see from that big smile on his face. Briefly touch on Queensland for me before we run out of time. You've got 3 in the Drummond Basin and Connors Arc here in Australia. Why that's exciting for you?
Okay, so we there's a couple of things we like about them. Firstly, our counterparts, our vendors in those, we actually know them. The managing director of Raja Wali, who I said they have a 250,000 ounce a year production. He's one of our vendors in the Queensland assets.
Oh wow!
He's a very experienced mine operator. His partner is a very experienced geologist who's actually one of the few geologists who can claim he's had a multi-million ounce discovery that's gone into operation. So they've got a good track record between them. We saw the work that had previously been done, and we liked the assets of them in and of themselves. Hill 212 and Bluegrass Creek adjoin each other, and they also adjoin GBM Resources' Mount Coolum project. Now, GBM Resources are having some great results and great news flow coming out of what's happening in the Drummond Basin. The epithermal the low sulfidation epithermal vein system we're seeing in Hill 212, which we think extends into Bluegrass Creek, is showing similar characteristics to what GBM is seeing in Yandan and Mount Coolum. So we're actually very excited by these things that we're seeing in this area. And then we have Mount Clark West, which is an intrusive system that is an at depth copper gold porphyry system, which the drilling historically and the geophysics work historically is showing a decent sized magnetic anomaly, and we've clipped the edge of a mineralized system which is indicative of gold, copper, molybdenum porphyry. So we're actually excited that if we do some further exploration on Mount Clark West, we'll be able to prove up the mineralization there and then see what we can do with that information in terms of who maybe we should partner with.
Plenty of news flow. Before I get into the closing bit, Paul, who's your favourite child out of your 6 children? Woyler. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Woyler, it's the tier 1 up in Indonesia. That's his favourite child. I guess a little bit of attention on that, but attention on all the projects. Paul, we've run out of time. Talk to me about the 3 reasons that people should be sitting up and taking notice. As we said at the start, it's closing. The prospectus will close. The IPO will close on the 4th of February. You can download the prospectus from fareast.gold. Still think that's very cool. 3 reasons they should be sitting up and taking notice right now, Paul.
Well, we're a junior exploration company with 2 potentially tier 1 world-class assets in Woyler and Trenggalek.
Yep.
We've been able to progress Woyler and Trenggalek in Indonesia, where majors tried before and failed, Barrick, Newcrest and Anglo. They're still interested. They're still sniffing around.
Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting. And finally,
within the team, and everyone says our team is something special, but within the team, we have the proven track record of being able to take capital, apply it into mining operations in Indonesia and return dividends to shareholders and increase the value of businesses for shareholders. Nickel Mines is a great example. Over $1 billion raised, dividends being issued back to shareholders at $4 billion market cap. Our team, between us, we know how to take these opportunities and turn them into something that's of value for our shareholders.
Well, co-founder and executive chair of Far East Gold, it's been absolutely delightful to talk to you today. I wish you all the best with the IPO. Very exciting times. And did you hear those grades, ladies and gentlemen? Not bad. And they know how to operate up in Indonesia. So don't be too frightened of that. Make sure that if you can you can reach out. How can they, if they want to ask any questions, Paul, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Again, look at fareast.gold, the webpage. Contact details are on there, but info@fareast.gold. That'll be answered, and we'll get back to you.
Any questions? Go to info@fareast.gold. In the meantime, Paul Walker, thank you so much for joining me on Small Caps today.
Thanks, Kerry. It's lovely.